Hello, everyone, and welcome back to this Town Hall session 2. Today is the final day of APRGF. We are going to finish this strong. Yesterday in the Town Hall session, we weren't quite able to finish all the sub-themes. We were having a lot of very good input and comments from everyone. So we really hope you saved all those inputs and comments you wanted to give for the innovation sub-theme here. Just a little bit of a brief reminder. Next slide. Currently, we are in the timeline of the virtual town hall sessions. We're getting live input from all the participants, from you here, through voice, through the messages you send here, in the chat, and more importantly, in all the comments and inputs you put into the comment platform, comments.aprgf.asia. As you can see, right after APRGF, we will have a working period for the drafting committee, which will be roughly 10 days, hopefully give or take. And we will be publishing draft 1 that incorporates all the comments and all the input from all of you. And this draft 1 will be open again for public comment for roughly, I think, 12 days to 2 weeks, because we do have to wrap and try to publish this very important 2020 APRGF this document at the end of October, right in time for the global IGF, so you can actually take this output document from the regional IGF to serve as input in the global IGF. So something I really wanted to show, in case you had any questions about how to input your comment, is actually really easy. I will share screen here to show you exactly how easy it is. If you go and type into any of your browser, your favorite browser, comment.aprgf.asia, you will reach this platform. And then if you scroll through, you'll see the text under each sub-theme right now. This text is really for you to think about what you've heard these past 2 days and also today as well. If you want to input a comment, all you have to do is to click on this little speech bubble that you see that my pointer's over, and you'll be able to leave whatever you like. You'll have to put your name and your email address, but your email address will not be published. Your name will, and your comment will appear under the paragraph you wish to comment on. So we have this whole document open for comments through the entire APRGF conference. You'll see that there are different sub-themes. You will see that they were the framing questions that we showed on screen yesterday, and we will show today as well. And you also see the sessions for the conference. Now, if you listen to the conferences, if you've listened to the sessions over the past 2 days, and you think that there are certain issues and highlights that you really want to put into this document, please do. Use this little speech bubble, click in, and leave your comments. And let's go right back to the slides, Kevin. So yesterday, we went through the cybersecurity sub-theme, we went through the inclusion sub-theme, and we also went through the human rights sub-theme. Today, we are actually moving on to the 4th sub-theme that we have. Next slide. And that is innovation and development. For this sub-theme, we'll have our co-chair, Joyce. She will take you through some framing questions to get your juices running, your thoughts gathered, and we would love to hear your input on this. Next slide. And next slide. So a little bit of housekeeping as well. If you would like to raise your comment via voice, please use the raise hand button that you see in the Zoom room, and Joyce will call on you to unmute and give your inputs. If you would like us to read out your comment instead, please do input in the chat, in the little parens comments if you would like, or if you want to raise a question, use that as well. Please do be reminded to keep your comments on the topics and discussions that you heard in the past 2 days. to hearing today. We do want to keep it really aligned to the discussion we're having this year in APRGM. So without further ado, the floor is all yours, Joyce.
Thanks, Jen, and welcome to everyone. For those who joined us in yesterday's town hall, thank you for coming back again. Very nice to see you. And for those of you who are new to the town hall, welcome. I hope that you will be very active in putting your comments for the synthesis document in this session. So just some general housekeeping. You can raise both comments and questions that you think should be considered in the synthesis document. It doesn't necessarily just have to be only comments. Questions can also be helpful as other people in the community can respond to your questions in their comments. So this is going to help make the discussion a lot richer. And finally, of course, for the sake of the captioners and also for us to be able to properly record, please may I stress that you speak slowly and clearly so that your comments are being registered. Gaia, do you have anything you would like to add before I go into this sub-theme?
No, it was a fantastic conversation yesterday, and I hope that continues today.
Great. Let's go into this sub-theme for innovation and development. This is the fourth one that we didn't manage to cover yesterday, but don't worry, we will still have some time later on to go back to the previous sub-themes as well. I know there might still be comments on those. So let's talk about this particular sub-theme. It's about looking at the impact of development, the evolution of the internet and its applications. It's about understanding new emerging technologies and the principles and governance around them. What are some of the ethical codes and standards to be considered? And how do we balance technological innovation and advancement with human rights? In yesterday's town hall, we had some really great comments around, for example, 5G and the impact of development in terms of digital inclusion and access. This is also the space to examine the internet governance ecosystem in terms of the various multi-stakeholder, multilateral approaches. Now, if you go to the synthesis document on the web link, you will see that we have included some of the sessions that are relevant to the topic. But obviously, it doesn't have to be limited to only these sessions. I'm sure across all the other sessions, there would be some points that would have struck you about innovation and development that you can also raise in this section. So we had the single global internet, a technical discussion as one session, the internet's environmental impact and an action-oriented dialogue, and also learn from home during COVID-19. So without further ado, I know you guys are just kind of like wanting to put your comments in. Please do raise your hand. Let me know that you would like the mic. You can also feel free to add a comment or a question into the chat box if you want me to read it out. It's not an issue. Anybody would like to make a comment on this sub-theme? So this is your time to put your comments. I see that there are already some good comments. I have Edmund, please go ahead.
Thank you, Edmund here, and to get the ball rolling again, as I guess. So you on this particular topic, you mentioned the session for learning from home in COVID. I guess over the last few days and today as well, there are a few sessions about COVID. One of the things about that that is quite clear coming out of it is that a lot of innovations that were compelled during COVID should not be lost. Things like remote learning for education, remote delivery of social services, privacy first contact tracking apps, those type of innovations that were somewhat forced because of COVID should not be lost afterwards. I think that's a clear theme coming out. And in order to do that, what is interesting from the discussion is also, in order to do that, there needs to be policy support for schools to have hybrid modes where because even as we come out of COVID, one interesting thing is that if I bring my kid to school in the past, if they have a runny nose, you would take them to school. But going forward, that may not be possible, right? Because that's not a good idea, at least for the next year or so. In those cases, then a lot of students might miss out. So there needs to be the innovations that were compelled during COVID, which is remote learning or remote delivery of social services, needs to continue even through into the future, and perhaps even into the future to support better e-learning and those kind of things. But policy needs to be in place to support schools, to support these type of services. And this is something that I think is quite loud and clear that's coming from the discussion about innovation coming out from COVID.
Some very good points, Edmund, and I agree with you that with COVID and the pandemic happening, we've been sort of forced in a way to innovate very quickly and to try and get people to be able to access the internet as quickly as possible. So there's a bit of a sort of innovation also does occur when there's crunch time happening. I have Winston. Go ahead.
Okay. Do I turn off the video? Thanks for that. I just wonder whether we should whether we, the drafting committee, should advise commenters to tell us if they're commenting in their own name, that is, as offering a personal view, or whether they are reporting a consensus from their own national, their own NRI, their own national, IGF meeting in their own country. It just occurs to me that it's possible that some people here in the session may be in fact representing a national community, and they might want to put forward a view that they've already discussed in their own national meeting. I don't know if this is the case, but we should ask them to clarify, perhaps. What do you think?
So let me try and answer this. I guess first of all, it's kind of like our basic practice that everybody has to sort of say your name and then who you come from, where you come from, as part of the practice. And I guess whether or not they want to say the context of where the comment is coming from should really be up to the individual. But for myself, I think if most people, if they don't mention that this is, for example, I'm saying this as representing the view of my organization, I would just take it that this is their individual response coming out from the sessions. And in fact, I think a lot of the time, most people are speaking in their individual capacity. You hear that a lot when people take the mic. So my preference would be to leave it to people. It's up to you if you think you want to mention where your comment is coming from. If you feel like you have to mention that, for example, this is an organizational view or an official view of sorts, I think it would be good to know. But thank you, Winston, for making this point. I think it's an important one just to clarify for people how they might approach this. Gaia, Jen, anything else to add on this or comment on this point?
Just to point out, actually, it's a very interesting point that Winston is raising, because that will help the drafting committee understand where the comment is coming from. So maybe what we could do is put it in brackets if they feel that it adds a certain context to it.
Thanks very much, Gaia. Jen?
This is Jen, yes. I think that is a really good point that Winston made. It is true that there has been some NRIs that have had their meetings this year and could have discussed positions or issues that way. So it would be actually quite useful for us to know this. However, it's really, we do try to focus all of this on what's discussed here at APRGF. Even though we do, of course, have a lot of people who do come from different countries and economies, and they do have their own IGF IGF meetings as well, but we do want to focus more on the discussion here. And so to differentiate what they have discussed elsewhere and bring it into this conversation is also quite important, I think.
Okay, thanks, Jen. Understood.
Thanks very much, Vincent, for the question. And of course, feel free to also give us your comment for this sub-theme and the other ones as well. Moving on to Muhammad Sharif. Go ahead.
Good morning. I think with respect to this particular track on innovation and development, yesterday we had very interesting 2 sessions on it. The day before as well on learning from home. I definitely agree with previous commentator that what we are learning in COVID, especially with respect to education, many of these learning and practices with the new learning and evolution will, I think, continue. Especially, we've talked about this idea of flipping the classroom, and I think a lot of one-way communication that used to happen in the classrooms is now actually happening online. And in the future, when students go back to classrooms, the classrooms can be a more two-way collaborative learning environment, while the main lecturing and the delivery of content and research and homework and a lot of this can remain on the learning management systems that is actually being developed during this period. So I agree with that. But the second very interesting topic for me was the topic of environment. A lot of innovation in with respect to protecting the environment were discussed and presented, which was very, very interesting, and the use of emerging technologies. But at the same time, it is also very scary for a small island nation. All of these devices, billions and billions of devices, while these devices protect every tree, every reef, we also have to think about where does this devices come from and where do we throw it away, right? When do we start digging up the ocean bed for the rare minerals that are needed for these devices, and who charges and discharges these devices? So the impact to the environment in the life cycle of electronic devices is a concern, definitely, with respect to impact on the climate change. But of course, at the same time, we realize that the potential these devices and the IoT and 5G has in mitigation exercises for climate change as well. So this is, I think, the IGF ecosystem is a way for as a bottom-up conversation and activation mechanism for normal people to be engaged in deciding how, as I think in our situation, whatever communal ideas a small island may have does not really impact what happens globally, because really the larger nations has to come together to make a real impact on the future of our ecosystem as a whole. So this IGF as an ecosystem, as a foundation for bringing people together and having these conversations around not just about security and privacy, which is happening now, but also about the future of our environment and the future of the small low-lying nations, and what happens to the production cycle as half of the population still needs devices. And we just learned, I was surprised to learn, places like Hong Kong and Macau, I lived in Macau for 2 years and didn't realize this, that when COVID hit, then only they realized there was a real digital divide even within these communities that have extremely good internet development indexes. So It was very interesting sessions yesterday. So I would just like to point this out and thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Sharif. You brought up a number of very good points, and I'm so happy that you mentioned the session which was on environmental impact. And then looking at what sort of impact the internet has on climate change, talking about e-waste. But I see that Pablo has his hand up, and I think he can speak a lot more to this session and of course on other things as well. So Pablo, I give you the floor.
Hello, everyone. Very nice to be here. I am very interested to put some ideas forward in the synthesis document, mostly as well for hopefully the global IGF to take some of the concepts and things that we discussed at our session yesterday. I think it's a very good frame because I also think that we are at a risk. There have been themes that come and go in the global IGF with certain degrees of success and some others with not so much success. Environment is a new theme in the global IGF. And I think that we from the Asia Pacific can bring forward some good ideas to help frame this theme in the global IGF. And that idea was to take it at a high level, not necessarily on the very operational parts. So what do I mean by high level is that we really think that the internet community and the internet ecosystem can help solve a lot of the data and the problems related to climate change and environment, if and only if we are able to solve collective action problems. And if there is an example of someone that can demonstrate solving collective action problems, are the internet governance community and history of that. So something that I would love to is to bring how the internet community can have positive impact on the environment. Of course, the subject of e-waste is very important. Of course, the subject of energy consumption and the footprint of the ICT sector is very important. I'm not saying that it is not. It is very important and it should be part of these discussions. But I also think that they are very operational. There has to be industry standards that the IGF will not define for the process of that life cycle that you were discussing. So if we are to inspire the internet governance community, it can be around how can the data that the internet industry and the internet community collect, how can we help analyze that data, and how can we help with that governance experience that we have to reach that collective action in solving the most pressing and most important problem we're facing, which is climate change and sustainable environment. Sorry it was long, but I hope that we can reflect the essence of these ideas which were behind the organization of the workshop yesterday in the synthesis document.
Thanks very much for sharing with us, Pablo. And also, I hope that you will put in your comments into the synthesis document. Not just you, but also others who were in the session and in the other sessions as well. Also, please do help to put your comments in. Winston.
Yeah, hi. I'm reminded in this discussion about environment, I'm reminded that back in the 2003 World Summit on the Information Society, a long time ago, but I was there, it started out, the framework document for that summit started out referencing an idea for a network of early warning systems all around the Pacific to look out for tsunamis and other threats to civilization in the region. You know, civil emergency, to look out for natural hazards, and that concern has always been somewhere there in the background of all the goals, the SDGs, and all the concerns of the people in our region. Certainly, it certainly is in New Zealand. It certainly is a concern for the small island states in the Pacific that Pablo is no doubt thinking of as well, and certainly in the Indian Ocean. Could we not put into the document, the synthesis document, a recommendation for stock taking the initiatives that are going on in the region to pick up the results of studies on environment change, on climate change, rising sea levels and other hazards, a stock take, because if we don't, maybe I'm thinking we should perhaps recommend some concrete actions as a sort of balance to the high level philosophical discussions which sometimes creep into the synthesis document. A balance of the high level discussions and recommendations for concrete actions. And I think a stock take in many areas is a useful mechanism to focus our attention, or focus the attention of the countries in the region. Thanks, that's all.
Thank you very much for your comment, Winston. And actually it brings to mind that in last year's APRGF, when we were in Vanuatu, you know, the theme on natural disasters and also coping with hazards was quite a major one, a major focus. And this year we did not see this topic for this APRGF, but also because we have a more condensed program. And also I see that there was more of a shift from sort of natural disaster toward pandemic, more biological disaster. A bit of a different shift this year, which also makes for a very interesting synthesis document, I think. Something different in content. Oh, I'm so sorry. Jan corrected me 2 years ago in Vanuatu. Last year in Vladivostok. I hope Leonid is not here to catch me to make the mistake. So sorry about that. Yes, 2 years ago in Vanuatu. And I like your idea about recommending concrete actions. You know, can we do something about perhaps even APRGF could have a repository of some of the, you know, studies and platforms that are continually raised during the sessions, but they get lost once the sessions are done. And I think, for example, Eurodig has something like this. They did a repository of all the different studies, relevant articles on climate change and action and the internet, and put it on their website. And perhaps we could do something similar, you know, for the APAC region. In any case, any other comments on this topic? If not, perhaps we might want to go to just do a free-for-all. Basically, what we're going to do now is spend a couple of minutes to go back to the previous sub-themes, because some of you might not have joined yesterday's town hall, and you might have comments that you want to make on other sub-themes as well. And so we have cybersecurity, safety and trust, digital inclusion, gender equality and diversity, human rights and ethics, and of course, we've done innovation and development. Would anybody like to make any comment? And Gaia, please feel free to also speak up.
We had some really good sessions yesterday, and a lot of important conversations came out of it. So it'll be great if there's anything specific or even a question you'd like to have incorporated within the synthesis document.
And I see also that we have more comments now in the document itself. And so if any of you would like to also just take the mic and read your comment, you know, do go ahead. It's totally fine. I have Wakas.
Hi, Joyce. Yes, good morning, everyone from Islamabad. Since we are talking about themes and programs here, I just wanted to share that the sub themes are actually devised after community feedback. So we put some general topics out there, and we consult the community that which sub themes should we adopt for this year's API IGF, and these were the ones that got the highest votes this year. And since we see that there is a lot of traction on the climate change topic, I think this is something that we can probably add to the next year's program in the list of sub themes that we propose. And I would highly urge everybody to participate in that process, in where we select these sub themes based on what feedback we receive from the community. Thank you.
Thank you. And I just wanted to say that Wakas is the one who's worked tirelessly by chairing the programming committee, making sure that despite all these challenges, we had a successful API IGF. So thank you so much, Wakas. And I hope these comments will help you feed into next year's as well. I wanted to read out Maureen's comment on the chat. The suggestion is for the dynamic coalitions of small island developing states could look at what is happening in their regions, especially the Pacific, Caribbean, the Asian, Indonesian, Indian Ocean regions with regard to climate change developments, and then perhaps that could feed into it. Maureen, would you like to add further, or is that?
Thank you. Thank you, Guy. Just very, very briefly, it just sort of like, we're actually putting together our report for the DC SIDS, and this is something that we can actually sort of look at forward thinking, and perhaps, depending on what the theme is for next year, is that we'd actually hopefully have something to, especially some sort of like comparative study. And I'm sure, like we've got some very keen people in the DC that would probably be quite interested, and would get more Pacific people involved in it as well. But like it does cover a lot of the Asian side as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Maureen. And there was another, I'm not sure if it is not in today's chat, but yesterday there was a lot of conversation around private sector responsibility. So we might have to, and I would really request anyone who has specific thoughts around private sector responsibility to put that in that section, wherever it is that you find, or even generally in the human rights section. Maybe that's something to keep an eye on as well, private sector platform accountability for next.
I would personally love to hear more from our API IGF fellows and any of our youth IGFers. If you guys are around, would love to hear some of your perspectives. So anything, could be cybersecurity, it could be the future of the internet, because the future is in your hands. A lot of the conversation around environmental impact is, of course, the impact on youth. That's your future. And so if anybody would like to take the mic and share some of your views, please would love to hear from you. Great. So I've got Shraddha and then Faha.
Hello, everyone. I am a Youth IGF fellow. I was in the virtual camp, and I wanted to make a comment about digital inclusion, gender equality, and diversity. And during one of our discussions in YIGF, we came across this idea of access being a major issue for digital inclusion. But another issue that we highlighted sort of was with respect to digital literacy. And we came to know during our discussions at YIGF that digital literacy sort of is a major hurdle, especially in the Asia Pacific, because studies show that right now, since internet is getting cheaper every year, access is a lot of women and other gender are getting access to the internet, but they're unable to use it because they don't know how to. And one of the major things, another thing that came up was that digital literacy can only be carried out by, pro bono advocates who try to help women out and help teach them how to use it. And we were sort of wondering if there was a commercial model that could be implemented that could create like a circle of positive feedback loop by which women learn and then they help other women and help create digital literacy on a larger scale. So yes, thank you.
Thanks very much for your comment. I've included a question in the chat, which is basically, do you agree that more can be done for digital literacy? Is it really only the pro bono or nonprofits who are active in this space? Do you know of any other initiatives that are helping with this area? I know quite a number of the big organizations, for example, will have digital literacy as one of their pillars, but perhaps there are other people who are more well-versed with this topic. Faha, on to you. And I'm so happy to see you guys queuing up. Very, very great. Thank you. Faha.
Hi, am I audible?
Yes, if you could just speak up a little bit.
Yes. So I wanted to tell you about innovation and development because I feel there are a lot of technology with the time. There are a lot of technologies improved, but it impacts our daily life also. And for example, like there are a lot of wireless towers is growing day by day, but I think which is not eco-friendly. It impacts our environment. Like in my country, it impacts the growing of trees and all. So I think it's important to build something eco-friendly. So I think we need to talk more about these issues. And another thing is, apart from these innovation and development, I think in internet governance, Youth IGF, I am a member of Youth for IG. So I believe that all the youth forums like Youth CIG, they need a collaboration for make the internet governance more impactful on youth in internet governance forums.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's a really important point, right? And also, like, the sense I'm getting is that a lot of the discussions from the youth IGF and among the youth participants also may not find the space in the big sessions or the main sessions. So this is actually a really good way to make sure that the perspectives of the youth participants are incorporated properly within the document. So I would really recommend you to perhaps even share the link again with your youth participants, ask them to make sure that their voice is heard so that the notion that the internet belongs to all of us is very clear. I'm wondering if there's anything more specific about this inclusion aspect, about what kind of voices or what kind of issues or communities are missing. Is there any reflection on that? No? And the other thing I wanted to check was in the context of COVID, there's not enough comments in the document about digital developments in the context of COVID. Is there anything specific that people would like to see in the document about that?
Perhaps, Gaia, I think there's quite a queue right now in the room. So maybe we can go to our next speaker, Dr. Govind.
Thank you, Jennifer. Since we were discussing about the impact on environmental climate issues during the COVID some time back, so what I observed in India is, most of the rivers automatically became clean and fresh, which it took years to have a governmental big projects to clean Ganga projects or clean some other river project. So I have seen, if we don't disturb the nature, if we don't disturb the environment, automatically it cleans up the whole thing. So there is no need to I mean, pollute the river, pollute the water, pollute the air. So one impact which during the COVID we have seen is, if we don't, I mean, do it, influence to the rivers or through the industries and all which were closed down during the lockdown period. So that is a good impact on the environment automatically. So we should see that post-COVID, how we can leverage that kind of environmental cleanup system, which we automatically got during the COVID time. Thank you.
Felix, would you like to take the floor now?
Very good morning, Gaia. Thank you for this chance. Yesterday's sessions were fantastic. Coming to the environment, I feel guilty. I cannot speak because I'm still commuting with a car to my office. And little I'm doing to the environment, but still I'm doing my part by segregating the waste. But still, I feel I'm not in the position to talk about environment. Coming to the yesterday's sessions, fantastic. Yesterday, even Pablo was moderating the session on environmental impact. In that, Andrew Zoli from Planet was talking about taking pictures using Dove satellite. I was very fascinated by the remote sensing and the advanced imaging features that every minute the photograph is being taken. And in comparison, there was a session chaired by Ramanjit Singh, and the session name was Digital Rights Landscape in Asia Pacific after COVID. And in that, Professor Malavika Jayaraman, she said about, she was talking about the digital rights space shrinking. So I just want to compare this, the photographs being taken by the Dove satellite every minute and the digital rights. I just, whether to what extent we can balance this, that is my personal privacy and the public interest. So this balancing, this contrast of thinking is very fascinating for me from my perspective. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's a good question for us to raise in the document. That will be especially this question of what do we do when we are forced to think of a trade-off. Jenna, would you like to speak now?
Sure. Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. So I'm actually want to talk about something about the misinformation situations in the COVID-19. This kind of comment not particularly from YIGF, not exactly from our event, but this is like some study or findings from a bunch of young leaders in Hong Kong back in March when misinformation has drawn our attention because it's the time when COVID-19 start to roll out. I will try to keep it short because I may have to give a little bit of context of what actually had happened about its misinformation, but I will try to keep it short. So back in late March, some of these young leaders in Hong Kong Youth Asia actually figured out there's like a mechanism on Instagram or Facebook to actually filter out the reported so-called misinformation on their platform. So there's like one Instagram post by a person from Hong Kong. It's actually reviewed by an independent fact checkers and conclude to be a false information on Instagram, and a filter cover up the content both in the original post or when it is shared out on Instagram story by whoever is sharing out. So after clicking on a button provided by Instagram, when you click on see why, it is shown that the fact checker Bloom Live conclude the post to be false information according to one of the article written by their fact checkers. As the article is only available in Hindi, so we translate the articles online, and it shows that the article said Bloom Live found out the video on that post shows police actions on suspected COVID-19 patients in China is fake and is irrelevant to the current global pandemic outbreak. But the videos is related to a political event happened in Hong Kong on August 31st in 2019. So Boom Live has actually got a detailed analysis for the video on their website saying that people on Twitter have been spread this video with the caption saying this is how the Chinese government deals with those people with the coronavirus, but Bloomberg declared that this is solely related to the protests, but not the outbreak. So as a result, they determined it is a fake news due to the linkage to the virus, but not to the video itself. The narrative of this article itself is factually accurate, yet I doubt there's inaccuracy in the fact-checking features on Instagram, including the post by one account Instagram users is false information, because in the original post, the video clips is actually a non-narrative documentations of police brutality happened in August 31st, 2019 in Hong Kong. And the title of the video is actually literally means not to forget August 31st. So the captions of the original post written in spoken Chinese, which is Cantonese, is related to some personal political opinion, but not related to COVID-19 at all. And then these youth leaders actually hope the team of Facebook to review the post again and the fact-checking system to ensure the accuracy in such conclusion in this case, or to other similar posts. But until now, this group of young leaders do not receive any response from Facebook, of course. This is definitely like a potential risk behind the entire fact-checking mechanism, as people may abuse the system purposely by spreading false information online on purpose to limit disseminations of true and accurate information in any channels with similar mechanism for whatever reasons. So I hope in this community, we should actually come together to, to actually draw some attention for this kind of issues, because sometimes this kind of platform may have influence in different countries for whatever reasons, but platform like us, I think it's our responsibility to ensure a fair cyberspace to our online community. So that's my comment. Thank you. Sorry for having it a little bit long, but this is our concern from Hong Kong, especially.
No, that's fantastic. That's fantastic.
Hong Kong, yeah.
Jenna, and I've also been following the points you're putting out on the chat, right? And it's good. We need to have perspectives, especially from countries like Hong Kong and India and different places which are going through certain kinds of turmoil. So it will be really important to make sure that we capture those experiences. Thanks, Jenna. And Shah Zaidur Rahman, would you be able to speak now?
Hi, thank you, Gayatri. This is Shah from Bangladesh for the record. Actually, my interest in that innovation and development, we see that many of the innovation like AI, new technologies, data, big data, and IoT are increasing day by day. And one of the most important thing is that AI is growing very high everywhere. We are seeing that applications of AI is everywhere. Face recognition, voice recognition, NLP. Especially for the developing country, I must say that peoples in the like Bangladesh, we are not much aware about what it should be, what are the policy should be in the AI, because here lots of talented peoples around the Asia Pacific and also Bangladesh have to develop the program, but many of them are not concerned about the consumer rights. For example, few days ago, couple of months ago, so we had a data breach in a big company, Townhall. They had several data and information leaked by the third party, but the Townhall couldn't ensure the consumers' rights. On the other hand, I've seen that a few days ago, it's also one of the major issues is about cyber attack through all the banks. Actually, it's also I say that I personally know that because I work in the area of AI, WhatsApp and Facebook Messenger integration with the bank accounts. So these sorts of things actually they are doing, private sectors are doing good job, but the policy level actually have a very great lacking. That's why it is not only important that we have to implement the frontier technology without any cautious, that might be great hamper for the customers. like the finance sectors, it's a very dangerous issues. For that reasons, bank have to stop the transaction for a duration period of time. You know that some of the North Korea, they have threatened hackers that they are going to accounting. So this is actually questions how we can mitigate this problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rahman. And I'm going to call on Jan, who's going to be the last person to comment for now before we move on to the next section. Jan?
Oh, yes. Good morning. Good day. My comment would be on the aspect of inclusion with this related development, is that maybe there should be a call for not just for small island nations, but for island nations in the APAC region to have a for submarine cable infrastructure, for the governments to invest on the submarine cable infrastructure and not just leave it to the private sector. Since, of course, they have the mandate to ensure the welfare of their constituents. To a certain extent, this improves the backhaul and the bandwidth capacity. And not only that, it also contributes to bilateral and multilateral relations of adjacent countries, island countries. So that's just my idea.
Thank you. So we will move on to the next section, but I wanted to request everyone, these conversations are so important, and it's important that we capture these different ideas and different perspectives. So please visit the document that Jennifer shared. Please comment on the synthesis document. But if you want to have a conversation about any of those issues or generally share ideas, please join the APR IGF discuss list. It's a vibrant list where we constantly share information, updates, ask for help, seek for collaborations. Please visit the APR IGF website and subscribe to the APR IGF discuss list and use that list as much as possible to take the conversations further. Thank you. Jennifer?
Thank you. And thank you, everyone. That was actually a really good input session. I will echo what Gaia says. Please do remember, not only in your chat or in your voice interventions, we really do need you to put your comment into the comment platform, because that's the only way we'll be able to really take your input and put it into this document that it becomes a key output of our conference. So the drafting committee that we have two great co-chairs for, Joyce and Gaia, is actually still open for volunteers. Please do remember to join us if you're interested. You can always email the secretariat at sec@aprgf.asia. So please do join us. You are really crucial in helping us shape this very important output document. So now we actually only have a few minutes left, but this is also a really important topic that we should probably touch on, and it is to do with the future of the IGF. So without ado, next slide. Just a few minutes to update, I guess, the APR-IGF community on what is happening on digital cooperation. Now, some of you probably have been following the past 2 years on the process that has been happening and convened by the United Nations Secretary General. He put together a high-level panel on digital cooperation, and actually earlier, at the end of last year, I believe, this report was submitted to the Secretary General. Now, what is going to happen after that? Next slide, please. So the Secretary General actually published a roadmap for digital cooperation earlier this year. I believe it was in May or June. And with it come some recommendations that actually directly impact the internet governance ecosystem as we know it. The IGF, the Internet Governance Forum itself, is also undergoing an evolution and also a change, because we are still on, well, we are in the final 5 years of the second mandate. We are looking towards what will happen to the IGF after these 5 years. And digital cooperation is actually one of the key aspects that will kind of influence and impact what we see here. And one of the really important inputs that we did, and I mean our community at APRGF and also all the communities around the world, the national and regional initiatives, we actually formed a task force to respond to some of the recommendations about how to evolve and improve the IGF, especially on the model of IGF+. Now, this input actually served as input into the options paper. Now, the options paper is a roundtable that was actually convened according to the UN Secretary General's roadmap on his different recommendations. This roundtable in particular is to do with digital cooperation, and the co-champions led by UAE and Germany actually did a series of public consultations, especially in the internet governance community, to see what we think and what we think should happen and what we think should be the evolution of Internet Governance Forum and Internet Governance Forum ecosystems around the world. This options paper was actually incorporated input from APRGF, from our multi-stakeholder steering group, and also the wider discussion lists, and was actually given back to the UN Secretary General. I think it was on the 9th of September. So it was actually earlier this month this happened. What happens next is really to do with more direction from the UN Secretary General, and also when we see an appointment of a tech envoy. Now, there's a lot of questions surrounding what will happen, what this tech envoy might do, and what his responsibilities would be in relation to our forums and the spaces that we gather and talk. So I think this is actually a really important thing to keep an eye out, especially given that this is a space for us in Asia Pacific to gather and talk about all these very important internet governance issues and concerns, especially exacerbated by, of course, our pandemic, and also looking forward to a lot of the good issues that were brought up with internet governance and the environment. So definitely if you do want to join in on, keeping on what is going to come up, or if you want to discuss a little bit more what Joyce and Gaia said before, do join the mailing list discuss at aprgf.asia. We have many people who are very concerned and keeping an eye out on what developments might be. So next slide, please. Bringing back to the discussion on our synthesis documents, a lot of the comments we received earlier in the section for the free section actually relates to the 4 subthemes. But what I really also want to call on you here and also online, and also when we go out of the conference, is if there are any topics that we've actually missed in this document, topics that come up in the conversation that you have in the different workshops, please do also suggest if you think there should be a new subheading or a new topic that we need to highlight in this document, because this is really your document to shape. This is your document to take as an output after the session. So we really do need your help to voice out the issues that are the most important and should be highlighted in this very good document. So I know we're running out of time. Please do remember to go to comments.aprigf.asia to input, and contact the Secretariat at sec@aprigf.asia if you want to join us at the drafting committee. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Jen. See you at the main event.
Thank you, Jen, Gayatri, for your nice moderation. Thank you.